Hello again. So in this video we are going to go over some specific drawing tools and functions in Mastercam. This one is going to get in a little bit more detail. We're going to go a little bit slower, and this is something that you're going to want to practice at home for sure, especially going forward if you start doing the labs. So I'm starting with a fresh Mastercam. I have no toolpath machine group loaded or anything like that. We're just going to be drawing. And again, I am using my F9 key to show me where my beginning point is. So that's what we're going to base our drawing system off of, as on 000, the home position for Mastercam. Also, just in general, we're going to be operating in the top right hand corner of the Cartesian coordinate plane, which is positive when we're drawing. Okay, we'll get more into detail with that when I show you how to do the auto cursors and things of that nature. So what I'd like to start with is just by going to the wireframe tab. I'm going to go ahead and walk through what I consider to be the important commands that you should learn going forward, again just for reference sake. So we'll start with points. I guess that's the easiest one. Point position, create a point. Sorry, the tooltip went away. That's another thing I should point out too. If you highlight something, a tooltip will come up and you'll be able to actually read what that command does. So for point position, it creates a point at a specific position. Okay, woohoo. If you need a reference point for a snap or something like that, you can left click on point position. It asks you to create the point, and you can click in space, which is usually not helpful. In general, if you're going to use this command for something, I would imagine you'd want to have it at a specific location. So this may be a good time to talk about the Cartesian coordinate plane and what that means. So let's say I wanted to place a point that is 1 inch away from 0 in the Y and 1 inch to the right in the X. So +1, +1. I would click point position. Now you can see this ribbon bar up here. There are a few commands up here. The one I'm going to point out right now is the one that says X, Y, and Z. It's called auto cursor fast point. When you click on that, a small text box opens, and what you can do is you can actually type in the coordinates, again based on 000 in Mastercam, where this points can be placed. So if we wanted to do 1 in the X, 1 inch in the Y, so I do 1, 1, and I hit enter, you'll see that we get a point here, and we can assume that this is 1 by 1. We can also check that by going over to drafting, and we can actually put a dimension here from 0 to double check ourselves. So we can see that's 1 inch in the Y, and oops, I don't like the dimensioning in Mastercam. You'll hear me complain about that a lot. There we go. So there's 1 inch in the Y and 1 inch in the X. Okay. Now this, no matter what command you're in, this fast point will be available to you as long as you're in some kind of input field. So let's say I wanted to do a center point circle at that same location, 1.1. I could do fast cursor 1, 1. There's my center point, but then it still asks for a diameter spec. Okay, and again, we're going to talk about that. But so keep in mind, if you do want to put geometry at a specific location, this auto cursor fast point is the best way to actually physically type in a location or a coordinate for an item. So that was point. Again, not the most helpful thing. I'm going to skip bolt circle for now and go straight to line endpoints. So when I click on line endpoints, you see it's looking for us to specify an endpoint to start with. But let's talk about the dialog box on the left for now before we do that. You'll notice that we have a couple of different options here. We have freeform, horizontal, vertical. We also have different methods. endpoint, midpoint, multi-line, and then we can actually specify lengths and angles as well. So freeform is the easiest thing to explain. It's basically you're going to just click 2 points and you're not going to worry about where you're dragging it. You will notice that the dimensions and the angle will change depending on where you move your mouse on the screen. Okay, so let's say your start point is 0, 0, but you have a specific direction in mind. Let's say you want a 4-inch length line at a 45-degree angle. You can actually type those dimensions in this box, and you'll see that it's showing us a preview. It's locked in place, right? And it is a cyan blue. That cyan blue is used for all geometry. It's basically Mastercam's way of telling you that this is a preview, but it's not set in stone yet. Okay, so to confirm a command, you have to click one of these 2 checkboxes. One is OK and create new, and one is OK. So the differences between the two is if you click on the blue OK and new, you see the line color changes to dark blue. It's now created that geometry, but you're still staying in the command. Okay, so this is assuming you want to create more lines. So let's do the same thing. I want another 4-inch line, but this time I want my angle to be 45 in the opposite direction. You can actually do negative in that case. Oh, I'm sorry, that flips over that direction. So we actually want, let's see, 215, I believe. Doing the math real quick. Ooh, no, we don't want that. 0 is straight across, so that's 90, 180, 180 minus 45, 135. Oops. No, doesn't like that either. Oh, no, I just made the thing too long. Let's just go with negative 45 in the other direction here for safety's sake here. For negative 45. There we go. So now we have the same line in the opposite direction here based off of our x-axis. But now let's say I'm done. These are my 2 lines. I'm all set. If I click the green checkbox, same thing happens. However, you exit the command. So that's basically the difference. The blue checkbox will allow you to stay in the command, and the green checkbox will just close the whole thing out automatically. Okay, not a big thing to know. I mean, well, not an important thing to know, but it is convenient. You know, if you're doing multiple circles, multiple lines, you don't need to keep hitting the green checkbox and then going back up here and finding the tooltip. You can keep staying in the command by clicking on the blue. So we're still in free form. You know, we just type some dimensions in this time. The other thing we can do, like I was saying, is you can actually just click lines. If you're just doing a quick box to kind of isolate something or to use as boundaries, you can just freeform and drop the lines anywhere you'd like. The other thing that you may want to know that's convenient is you can also lock these lines horizontal or vertical. So let's say you want a perfectly straight line. You do snap to it too. You see that it kind of guesses that you want a perpendicular line if you get close to it. If you want to make sure you're really locked in, you can change these radio buttons, which are these little balls you can click into, and actually lock them horizontal or lock them vertical. That way you know there's no way you can accidentally get a line that is just slightly off. That's a bad example. I mean, you can be really slightly off and not notice it, and that could screw you up later down the road. So if you know you want a perfectly horizontal or vertical line, it's not a bad idea to lock that in place. Okay. The other ones I don't use much of, if at all. Midpoint, you can basically select the start point of a line, and that becomes the middle of it. So as you extend out, it goes equidistant left and right. And then multi-line just allows you to just keep clicking and not stop, which, you know, if you're creating like a polygon or something like that, that might be convenient. But those are really the only 2 commands in here. I don't use that very often. I'll usually use 2 endpoints for the most part. So again, we can just practice selecting things. So you can select, highlight a single line to delete, or you can left click and do a pick box by holding it and dragging and select everything that's inside of that. One thing of note, you will notice that only things that are entirely inside your pick box highlight. So you'll see this line here. If I don't get the whole thing in the box, it won't select it. You have to make sure to get the entire piece of geometry in the box before it'll let you delete it or do anything with it. So we'll clear that, and let's move on to circles. So circle is an easy one. Circle center point, you'll probably use this a lot. I'm going to left click on that, and the same thing, we get circle center point, dialog box opens, manual tangent center point. It's asking for a center point. So let's say I want to snap to 0, 0. I left click, that's my first input. Now again, obviously the second input is going to have to be the diameter or the radius, right? You can click freely and it'll drop wherever your cursor is at the current time. Most of the time you're going to want to select radius or diameter and actually input a size. So if I want a 5-inch diameter circle, I can type 5 in diameter and hit the tab key, and it will show me a preview, and you'll see that radius updates automatically too. Or let's say I want a diameter of 6 but a radius this time, so I'll put 3 in the radius and hit tab. You'll see that it adjusts the circle for you. So tab is your friend in Mastercam. It's similar to the enter key. Most of the time you're going to want to use tab. So let's see, we got that. And again, you'll notice that the line is blue or cyan, which means it's not actually been dropped in the space in Mastercam. This is a preview. I'm going to go ahead and click the green button to exit the command, and then you'll see that the color changes. Okay. Rectangle, very similar to circle, whereas you select a start point and then you specify dimensions. So if I want to start the lower left hand corner of my rectangle at 0 and pull it out this direction, again you'll see that the dimensions change as I move, and it's actually a good reference point. So you see that if we go to the left, the width becomes a negative number and the height is positive. If I do it in the bottom left hand corner, we have negative, negative, bottom right hand corner is positive, negative, and then again upper right hand corner is positive, positive. So let's say I want a width of 5 and a height of 3. Again, I'm just typing in the boxes and hitting tab. There's my preview. So let's hit the OK and create new and stay in the command, and let's create a second one. This time I'm going to change the settings to anchor to center. Now what that does is when I select my base point, you'll see that the center of the rectangle becomes the expansion point. Okay, so you can either anchor to the center of the rectangle, or you can anchor to the bottom left hand corner. Most of the time the bottom left hand corner is the one you're going to want to stay in. And then again, let's just say I want to do -5 and then 3 in this instance. So there's the preview of the other rectangle on the opposite side of the Y plane there. Okay. Those are really the only commands that you have to worry about for the time being. There are some other things in here for like arcs and tangents, letters. A lot of this other stuff we're not going to worry about too much. I suppose, you know, let's look at fillet for a second and chamfer in case you ever need to do this. So over by modify in the right hand side, we have fillet and chamfer. A fillet is a round radius and a chamfer is a sharp angle specifying a length and an angle in degrees. So let's say we want to do a fillet on the left hand side. We specify the radius size, and then it's asking us to select an entity. Okay, so in this instance, let's say I want to round this corner off. What I need to do is specify the radius and then select both lines where the radius is going to be forming. And you'll see after you do the first click and you highlight the second line, it shows you a preview of what that's going to look like. So if I click that, there we go, and I click OK. Okay, now if we do that again, there is an option in here for trim entities. We can actually turn that off. So let's say we want to keep the sharp edge and we only want the radius to show up. We don't want to trim. We can turn that off, and you'll notice that we actually keep the sharp edge there. Same deal with chamfers. So next to fillet we have chamfer entities. We click on that. This one has a couple different inputs. So you can give them the distances, or you can give it a distance with an angle, which is the more normal way to do a chamfer. So if we look at that, distance and angle, you'll notice that one of these distance boxes grays out. Let's say I want a 1/4 inch chamfer at a 45-degree angle. Same deal, I select my two edges. I'm going to let it trim, and I would select that. Okay. Now again, since we're not doing any real heavy drawing in Mastercam, this is probably something you're not going to have to use all that often, but it's just something that I want everybody to expose to so that you know what's there. And then going forward, you'll probably spend more time just doing lines and rectangles and circles in order to do geometry for boundaries, for different commands, for milling and things like that. So again, the tutorial this week is going to be on drawing. The next video that I do is going to be on levels, and then I will actually do a tutorial that I'm going to have you walk through and submit for the class. So I will see you in the next video.